Hi, so this is a follow-up to my video yesterday. Um, it's sort of helping to deepen that awareness with self and with the emotions that are arising, particularly with the emotions that we find more difficult, and predominantly anger, as we discussed. But that's not to say that we're seeking that emotion within ourselves. It's allowing ourselves to feel what we are experiencing in our body, and in our being in every moment of the day, ideally, but taking a moment of the day to drop into our bodies and to really experience every single emotion that we have the capacity to experience and recognize. And so that is in its own organic expression and not something that we contrive or have expectations of what is going to arise. We can only meet with ourselves and have total surrender and compassion and allowance for whatever is yet acknowledged within us. And so the method that I find is incredibly helpful, there are many ways that we can meet with ourselves, is to begin the process of embodiment. And from this place of embodiment, we can use many other tools, which sort of complement this state of being connected deeply to ourselves. Because we are expressing, when I talk about this, the language of the soul arising through the body, you might have heard other people discussing it in a different way, like the cellular mechanism of communication that happens within the body, the wisdom that we carry within each cell in our bodies, within our DNA. So our DNA is much more sort of magical and wondrous and connected and communicative than any science will reveal. It's something that exists beyond really our full understanding, but when we begin to meet with it in an energetic platform, we can begin to touch the edges of its magic and its wonder and really start to embody the truth of what it is. It's really a matrix of learning. It's a code that we have arrived with into this body, into this life, which is constantly offering us information, and constantly creating the world around us in order that we may see ourselves. And so our DNA is a vehicle for our spiritual wisdom. It's a vehicle for our template, which we governed, co-created before we arrived here. And it's a vehicle for our deepest soul's language, that we can work with in a very conscious way. It is at work all the time anyway, regardless of how conscious we are of it. But coming into a place of direct alignment with it does something to our frequency. It enacts a greater sort of expansion into the depths of our soul, but also into the connections that we share and the connections that are already inherent in nature, but really gathering them to ourselves and walking with them and visiting them without effort, ultimately, throughout our day. So what was I talking about? And so the methods of discovering how we are within ourselves are actually really simple. And I'm sure a lot of you will have done things like body scans and, meditations to connect and ground. This is just quite specific and intentional. And I think the intention is probably the most important thing before the actual practical exercise. And the intention is first and foremost not to contrive anything and not to have an expectation of an outcome. We are not trying to force anything here. We're not trying to create a sense of peace. We're not trying to create a feeling of more groundedness. We're not trying to create a feeling of anything in particular other than deeper connection with ourselves. So the only intention, and the one that must be at the sort of forefront of our heart, is to arrive with our light bodies as deeply as possible into our bodies so that every cell in our body becomes illuminated. So you can actually, without maybe fully understanding what that means, you can still use those words. But just to flesh it out and give a better understanding, is what we're doing is we're drawing our light body, which is our life force, our expression for life. We're drawing it right down into our physical bodies, all the way down into our feet. Some people talk about grounding. Really, that's what we're doing when we're grounding. We're asking our light body to arrive deeper into our bodies, connect with every cell in our body so that we become more illuminated. How far we can draw our light bodies down into our bodies just depends on our state of being. And that's not a hierarchy. It's not like a superior inferior thing. It's just that sometimes when we're deep in shadow, drawing our light body down, it sometimes can be really big work, because we're recognizing a lot within our bodies in that moment. There's a lot arising. It feels really hard. Our body feels difficult. It's expressing a lot. And so this is a gentle practice. It's not one, as I say, that needs to have any intention for expectations, because the arrival into the body needs to be something that is created from a space of compassion, beauty, connection, understanding, and not from a place of urgency, of needing to be better or better than or more than. This is a place of surrender. This is a place of letting go rather than control. So we're not trying to control an outcome, we're trying to let go of the outcome. This is quite the opposite. And so drawing the light body down begins as an intention. Once we have set that intention within our heart, whether we write it down or whether we speak it out loud, whether we create a sacred space where we light some candles, or we just find a private space, or we go to a tree which we feel comfortable sitting under, or whether we sit beside the ocean, it's really, really, really important that you follow your own truth in that regard, and in how you create that space for yourself, which you feel intuitively will offer up the most comfort. And that's the basis for all of this as well, is intuition. We're walking back to ourselves, and so every decision and every moment of sort of acknowledgement and of all the epiphanies and the value, all our values need to start coming from ourselves. That is another intention that we need to be really aware of, is that we're trying to come back to our hearts, noticing how we sometimes behave and do things to please others, but then returning to ourselves. So setting this intention that we want to really meet with ourselves, to connect deeply with ourselves, and then beginning in whatever way feels comfortable, whether it's imagining the light body like trickling down through the crown and down through the spaces in the head, filling up the spaces, really becoming aware of all the spaces, all the expression, all of the cells, all of the flesh and the tendons and the ligaments and the bones and the organs, really allowing that light to come trickling down through your shoulders, down through your chest, feeling all the organs in your body, feeling the movement, perhaps becoming aware of your breath, but really, really, whether it's visualizing or whether it's feeling or whether it's just trusting that it's happening, it doesn't actually really matter how you imagine this or how you draw it in, but just using whatever tool you have to bring this light deeply into yourselves. So traveling all the way down through your torso, through your sushumna, so the central valley of your being, becoming aware of the energies that flow through your body as you feel this light pouring into you. Becoming aware of areas that are maybe more difficult to feel than others. Becoming aware of energy movement in your body. And just allowing that light to trickle down all the way through all the spaces in your lower pelvic area, through the tops of your thighs, through your buttocks, and really feeling as it travels down this far that you're beginning to anchor in this place, this base area of survival, of the right to embody ourselves, the right to exist, this place from where our roots grow into Mother Earth. This might be a really big experience for some of you arriving to this place. And there might be such a blockage there that it might be hard. Or in any area of the body, there might be some areas where you don't feel the light fully anchoring into the body, or almost like a closed door where you can't move through. In this case, I would encourage any of you to come to me for, I do distance sessions, and I also do person-to-person sessions to really support people to be able to, it can be quite a lot of deep energy work that needs to happen in order to move into some areas, but that doesn't mean that you can't keep doing this practice of embodiment and that you won't benefit from it. You will, because even in those places of blockage, there will be illumination and you will be healing and there will be release and there will be resolve. It just will take more time, and it'll be a gentler, slower process. But allowing that light to trickle down as far as you can, traveling down if you can through into your knees, through the backs of your legs, and all the way down through the calves and through the shins and through the ankles, feeling all of the movements, the shapes of your legs, the tendons, the muscles, the bones. Feel the density of everything, feel the temperature. There's millions and billions of expressions in your body at each moment of the day, so try not to give a name to anything unless you really want to, but just experiencing, just really deeply experiencing as your light moves into every cell in your body, all the way down to your toes. And as the light travels down, right down into your feet, and you become fully illuminated, there is a connection which is created with Mother Earth without trying. It's like a key in a door. So just allowing that connection to anchor in. And once you're connected to Mother Earth in this way, you're creating a circuit of energy which is divine and sacred. And in doing so, you've also, without intention, and perhaps you've done this with intention anyway, you've also called in your guides for this work. So your archangels, your ascended masters, your ancestors, those that walk with you, because they all exist within the template of Mother Earth. They are all anchored in deeply. They are the reserve for our resources when we dig deeply into ourselves, looking for more for this journey, more to be able to support ourselves, more to be able to support others, so that we can hold more space. So this is our way of anchoring in order to hold space for ourselves and allow space to be held for us. So within this container of connectedness, we are being cradled by Mother Earth, and so too by all our guardians, whether you know their names or not, whether you know their energies or not. And from this place of connectedness, the depth of your self-witnessing grows, but also the depth of your connections with those who guide you grows. And with every connection, there is always more. Even though it might not seem like it, even though sometimes we move into shadows and it feels like we've lost those connections, it feels harder to anchor and it feels harder to create that connection. If we are doing it, there is still always more. And we'll return to that feeling of clarity if we continue to do it. And so once this circuit is created, we can bathe in it. And we can also, at the same time, allow ourselves to really feel the parts of us that are in pain, to really feel the parts of our body from this safe container, from this safe place of connectedness. To really acknowledge those parts of us that are not feeling well, that are not feeling free. So if we find a place in our body, for example, mine would be right now, would be in my spine, to the right of my spine and my back. For you, it can be any place in your body. So just recognizing that place in your body, witnessing it, acknowledging it. So if we consider this to be a child of our soul that is requiring healing, then we're meeting with it in that kind of energy, allowing that beautiful, tender, first connection, welcoming that energy, welcoming the difficulty, welcoming the pain, and then bringing all our consciousness, all our awareness, bringing that all the way into that space, that place where we're carrying and holding and struggling. And when we bring that consciousness all the way into that space, so shrinking it right down into that tunnel of awareness, and almost diving into it as though it were a pool, so that we become immersed in it. Letting that child of our soul know that we are putting all of our attention and all of our love and all of our energy right there where it matters. And sometimes what happens is it deepens, and sometimes there are images that we see, feelings, communications. Sometimes we can understand what that pain is and where it has come from. Sometimes it doesn't need that kind of understanding, just the acknowledgement, and the release. So sitting with that energy and knowing that pain and trauma and loss and grief and difficulty, they are energy and they require movement. They need to move. And so when energy becomes stagnant, it becomes sickness, it becomes dis-ease. So with this acknowledgement, this deep recognition, this deep felt sense, we're giving permission for that part of us to move, to grow bigger, to be expressive, to not be held, to not be contained, to not be pushed into a smaller space. And so with that intention, allowing the energy to unfold. Sometimes there will be a huge expression of emotion. But other times, because this is a new practice to some, it may take time before this becomes a very expressive experience. It may take a little time for you to meet with the language of your body and learn it. So be really patient with yourself and be patient with your body. But keep revisiting yourself, if you can, every day, if possible. But acknowledging that your healing and your unfoldment has its own tempo, its own organic rhythm. So it may not be that you do this every day or even close to every day, and trust in that. And perhaps in time you will. But if you can find a way to come back to your body in some sort of a rhythm, whatever that may be for you, then you will begin to learn the language of your body, and you will begin to allow these parts of your body to become more expressive and more fluid. And if it is anger, then there might be a requirement for you to release in a way that perhaps is uncomfortable for you. And perhaps that needs another video in a way, but taking a pillow and thumping it, or screaming into a pillow, or running with rage, or dancing it, or just moving, whether it's not dancing, moving in whatever shape your body needs to move in. Speaking it out loud, screaming it out loud, telling the story, writing it down. There are so many ways to express this child of the soul, but expression is key. It's so important. And through this experience, the layers can be revealed. The multi-layered beauty of all these children of ourselves. They're just like us. They're multi-layered and incredibly complex and beautiful aspects of ourselves. And so the intention is not to reveal something and to step away from it. The intention is to regather ourselves. So although we are creating movement in order for this energy to move and be fluid, and often, yes, to release and express emotion, ultimately we're actually regathering these children of our soul to ourselves. So this intention for release, just to know that intention is just to release the emotion that this child of our soul has been carrying, and that we've been carrying within because we are one and the same, within ourselves. And that ultimately, beyond that, we are, and within that, we are opening our arms to ourselves. We're opening our arms and our body to ourselves in order that these aspects of us can return. And this creates a foundation for regathering and for soul retrieval, which is something that I can support you with one-on-one also. And these things can happen for us in, as I say, in an organic way over time. It's just a slower journey, but I will try to give all the tools I can in order to support yourself through this journey. But if you're in a very crucial and critical time, if some of these emotions are, you know, feel very dark and deep and frightening, and if you really need space held in order to support you, please do get in touch with me at mck.angelfire@gmail.com. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave it there, and maybe come back again if I realize I've left something out. But love and blessings to everyone who is watching this. Thank you for watching, and I just want you to know as well that whenever you're doing this work, I'm holding space. I'm present within that work. I'm holding space, and my heart is there with you through that journey. Aroha nui, le girl. Bye.